Okay, we're live. Hi, everybody. This is a really cool opportunity. It's the first time I'm ever doing this. And last night and yesterday, I was having the amazing coffee date with my new friend, Aviva. And we both met through Natalie Garson's Born to Do Business community. And we were talking about what we both do and the businesses that we've been working on and why we're so passionate about helping people. And as she was talking, I'm like, oh my gosh, two of my personal VIP personalized clients have talked to me about exactly what you do, that they need this in their life so badly. And so I know that for me, I have a daughter with some special needs. I have 4 kids with ADD. I have gone through so much stress. We're dealing with the school system, paperwork, all of these things. While I was talking to Aviva, I was like, I didn't even know people like you existed. And I can't tell you how much emotional eating has happened because I thought I was totally alone and I was going to friends and friends and friends. And I have amazing resources of friends who've gone through it, but I never had anybody who this was their specialty. And so it was just this moment. I'm like, we have to just go live and have this conversation live because people need to know that you exist. And especially people who I know I'm in contact with. So that's why, thank you, Natalie, for bringing us together. And Aviva, why don't you introduce yourself? Because I didn't even know there was a person like you. So other people might not know this exists in Israel.
Yes, so I am a certified patient advocate, which is a word that doesn't yet have a Hebrew translation, the word advocate. And I've been doing this for a very long time in Israel, helping people navigate the healthcare system in general, also in Israel, but also in other places, trying to figure out what your rights are and how to get them. So there's also the knowledge base of what my rights are and also the cultural interaction of how do I access those. And together with also how does one advocate for oneself and when we are caring for someone else, so for aging parents or for special needs children or adult child with a severe mental health illness, we have to, how do we advocate for them inside the system, which is not clear at all. So yes.
But I just have to let everybody let that sink in. So many of us have dealt with one of these things. And if you just think about the amount of hours I know that I spent, and that my 16-year-old son now is in the army. So now we have to do his equinium all over again. And I have to tell you, I'm just taking a deep breath and I'm like, I don't want to. Like, are you serious? It's like starting a whole new business. It's like having another child dealing with this amount of paperwork and understanding and the emotional, and to know someone like you exists, I think is crazy. So let's say I had something like that, or somebody else had something even way more complicated. I was talking to a client recently. Her son has been supposed to get occupational therapy since before Corona. And they pushed her off and they pushed her off and they gave her this and it wasn't a good fit, but then they never offered her anybody else. And and so what I know a lot of, at least Olim do, is that we'll just pay privately. We'll just throw money at the problem.
Right. You're absolutely right, which first of all doesn't solve the problem. First of all, not everybody's got the money to throw.
And then you end up in debt or feeling like you can't serve this child because of money.
Right. And then you see everybody else getting the resources and you think what have I done wrong? How come they're getting it and I'm not getting it? And what am I saying wrong? And then you're right. I mean, being, having somebody so as a parent, we're caregivers of our children 24/7. But the complicated thing is, what do we have when we're doing that with an adult, whether it be an adult child or be a parent, who has been aging, either it's sudden or it's, slowly.
Yes.
And it's another job. You are absolutely right. It is a full-time job, just with the bureaucracy.
I literally said that to my client of mine yesterday. She has 2 parents, aging, live in the same building as her. And we were going over what was happening in her food and her emotional eating. And she's like, and I'm like, look, we need to have a plan for self-care for you because this is going to be the next 25 years. And you can either ignore it or you can lean into it. And she's like, I'm getting help here and I'm getting help here. I'm like, but no, what about you? And like, it's still so much to navigate and it never ends. Like she thinks she'll have a week that's like quiet and like this, her whole world is turned upside down.
Exactly. And it's not like that's the only thing that she's doing. It's not her
Right.
full-time
She
job.
has
I'm sure
young
she has
kids,
children. I'm
middle-aged
sure she has a
kids,
job. I'm sure she has
marriage.
and a marriage. Exactly. So the reason, so I have a friend of mine who's a colleague who's a medical coach, and the reason that we're doing this free online series, which we're going to start tomorrow. This is the third time we've done it, is because we saw. So I do the navigation, and I do the logistics, and also the advocating. How do I speak to the medical professionals? What are the questions that I should be asking? But there's this whole emotional component that you are mentioning that takes over people's lives. And that's really her expertise. So we thought, you know what? People need both of these. They need the information that I can give them, and they need the approach that she can give them. And the self-care is so crucial. And that always goes, on the back burner. I mean, I know for myself. So I came into this professionally. I have a background in health promotion and epidemiology and health research, and then started and helping people learn to be a certified health advocate. But I'm also the primary caregiver of my two older parents when my mother has dementia, advanced dementia. So, in addition to having, 5 children, each one with their own specific health journey, which I've had to navigate, but being the primary caregiver of somebody with dementia in Israel has its own trials and tribulations. So I feel like I've got the professional knowledge and I have the personal journey. And I know for myself that, you don't know. Am I hungry? Am I tired? You don't know. Should I,
Am I
should
just
I make myself
overwhelmed?
Yes, overwhelmed. Exactly. And my exercise routine and my, making healthy food choices and my taking a break and my going out with friends are always, the last, the last on the to-do list. So, yeah.
Absolutely. But it's more than that, because what I love about what you do is that, in this workshop that you guys are going to talk about, you're really going to give people resources and help them understand what they're getting into. Exactly. And that, a lot of people, I'm thinking of 2 clients that I currently have in general, and they all of a sudden felt like they were struggling with their weight, that it's a certain time of life. And you know what? Mm-hmm. Yes, there's hormonal changes, but in this time of life, there's also constant health crises. And very often the stress and the sleeplessness and the lack of self-care, and also the lack of someone like you in their life, the lack of someone who can take some of the burden off them, who can say, hey, you're getting on this doctor's call, let's talk it through. Do you need me on the call with you? Like, tells people a little bit about how you ease the burden for them. Because I wish I would have known. And my aging parents are going to make Aliyah in the next 10 years. And I have to tell you, I'm breathing easier knowing you exist.
That's good to know. Yes, I have a lot of people said, why didn't I know about you 5 years ago? So, so the first thing is that I help people in a very practical way, filling out government forms, making doctor's appointments, knowing which doctor's appointment you need to do, knowing which medical information that you need to provide the doctors, et cetera. For example, a lot of people coming from the States, they have these huge stacks but they don't know which papers they're supposed to be giving in. What do they need to bring? Is it helpful? Is it not helpful? Things like that. So there's like the straight, kind of bureaucratic element that I do. And I deal with the complicated cases often, meaning people who need to deal with a multitude of different government organizations, as well as as the doctor, people who've got, who are older and suddenly they have a cancer diagnosis. I have a lot of people say, what do I do with this information? So I help them go through the information that the doctor has given them. We look over the test, there are more tests, because unfortunately in today's world, you are your own case manager. And when you're caring for somebody else, you become their case manager. So, you want to go into the doctor's office saying, I know the right questions to ask. And exactly, I'm often on the call with people. In this country, people say, oh, I speak English, because no self-respecting doctor is going to tell you that after 7 years of med school and X amount of residency, they don't speak English, but they don't. A lot of them don't. So you need somebody who not only speaks Hebrew, but can also ask the questions. I'm often there on the phone, on the speaker, and not only translating, but also telling, let's talk about this issue and talk about that issue.
And
Also,
Israelis, I have to stop you. Like, I've been on the phone with doctors, and you have to know how to talk to them because
yes.
you get all American and emotional about it,
Oh, forget about it. Yeah, yeah.
and they just want to hang up on you.
Exactly. No, I've told people, like, we get it out beforehand. I'm like, okay, tell me all your frustration, tell me all your concerns. We go over it. There are a lot of tears. Then we take it down. Like, we go to the doctor. It's very, straightforward. What do you want? What is this? What is that? Because, and you also have to know, I have to know the client. Some people, they just want to be told what to do, even though, but today's healthcare world, that doesn't exist, and so they ask the doctor, what should I do? And the doctor will say, like, I can't tell you, or it's your choice, or they don't feel like they have enough information to make a good decision with, kind of thing. So it's a balance of all of those issues. And that's what bringing in Tamara, that's why we're doing the webinar together, is because I don't talk about, I mean, obviously I have empathy, but I am not, your emotional, I'm not a social worker. It's very important to I'm not a psychologist, and I try to really make that clear to people about what I do and what I don't do. And there's this whole emotional, and often when you're caring for somebody, there's also, I have a number of clients with children with who are adults with mental illness, and you're responsible for this person, but you're angry that you're responsible for this person sometimes, and do I do for them? Do I not do for them? And there's a lot of disappointment. The child with the potential that you thought was going to meet it, that isn't, and that
I have
has to.
2 clients that I graduated in the last month. One of them just came for 1 month of coaching. Her health had gone down the tubes over Corona because she has an adult child with disabilities. And she used to take great care of herself, but then like Corona plus all the other kids plus everything else, like it just was. And within 1 month, we were able to like turn it around for her. And she was able to like go back to, but you could see in her, like she'd already gone through with with her own journey. And she was so loving to this adult child. And so she was then ready to feel worthy to work on herself. And I think that's a huge problem with the self-care, is that when you have any negative feelings or resentments around the stuff you have to do for this child or the stuff you have to do for this parent, you don't feel worthy of making that time. And so it's not just I'm on the back burner because I don't have time for me. It's I don't prioritize me because I don't feel like I'm ever measuring up to doing well enough, taking care of everybody else, that I even should be on the agenda, like in this core place.
Wow, that is such a good point. Yeah, that is it's a difficult challenge. You're right. It's a very good point.
What's beautiful here is that when you get help, at least I found for me, that when the second that you open up to saying, hey, I need a health advocate, I need somebody who's going to help me, and I need a psychologist, maybe I need someone to also help me with my nutrition, you realize there's like, I always feel like with my house, like anytime I feel like my house isn't clean enough, my kids aren't fed enough, like, yeah, this, I'm like, well, guess what? All of those are full-time jobs, Lily.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could pay somebody to do that, and that would be their whole job. So maybe just you aren't doing everybody's full-time job and taking care of yourself. Like you need to take care of your first job, and now you could take care of like everybody else and delegate as needed. But like it's such a
good point. You're right. I think especially like as mothers, we get into that role that like, you're right. Like I have this full-time job and that full-time job and that full-time job. And it's like, we're expecting of ourselves to fulfill all of these full-time jobs. And that we feel guilty when we're not doing it, or we're asking somebody else to do it, as if you're completely right. I totally.
Well, now take it to our entrepreneur journey with Natalie. How many times is Natalie is like, that's not your job. Yeah. Like you're doing it right now, but it's not your job. You need to get ready to hand that to somebody else.
Yeah.
And like, it just clicked for me. Like she's looking at us the same way and being like, no, like,
that's true.
Do that for
it's the letting go. The letting go is very difficult. I think a lot of
So how do
people.
you help a client let go and work with you? Because I just know
So
people need you. Like I want
I
people to come out and
find
like know their stuff.
Right. I find that, that sometimes people like need to talk to me 2 or 3 times because they have that expectation in their head that they should be able to do this by themselves. I'm a reasonably
Oh
intelligent
gosh.
adult. Sometimes they have their Hebrew is passable. I've been in this country for 30 years. I should be able to do this kind of thing. So I always tell people, it's not that you couldn't do it, as if Natalie always tells us about, with it, but is it really using your skills correctly? You're the only person who at the end of the day is going to take care of your person. You are. But all this other stuff is just taking place in your head. And I see how much stress that it sits on people. And I usually go through a laundry list with them. I say, look, I can take this off your plate. I can take this off your plate. I can do this. And I sometimes I feel like people have to get to a certain point of overwhelmedness, if that's not even a word, but before they realize like, oh, right, okay, I could hand this off to you. And then I always tell people it's a partnership. It really is. We're working together to create this other thing, whether this infrastructure for the person who needs caring. And it is an infrastructure because it's a lot of work.
I feel the same way when I work with a client on their health and nutrition. I always talk about like ideal weight. People are like, oh,
Right.
weight, such a
Right.
triggering topic. And I'm like, well, your ideal weight is when you get to release worrying about dieting ever again. It's not a number. It's a mindset. It's a state of being where I check in with how I feel and how I'm doing, but I'm not obsessed with the scale because it's not the emotional baggage of any of that stuff anymore. It's just, this is where I get to focus on self-care because I know I'm worthy of treating my body with respect. I know I'm worthy of the time it takes to have some form of meal prep, whatever it looks like, getting help, kids doing it, whatever, frozen vegetables. But like, I have to come in ready to let go and be like, everything I thought I had to do that, to be that, to feel that, like, it's not that. It's in our heads. It's getting rid of all of that nonsense in our head and one meal at a time, building self-respect again. Like, I'm a winner. I can do this. I'm worthy. I'm worthy. I'm worthy. And people are like, why are we talking about this with the skill? Why are we talking about this with how we take care of our parents? Because for women, this is the thing. This is why we're not taking better care of ourselves. This is why instead of just sitting with your elderly parent or your kid and being with them, we're doing for them.
Yeah.
We could hand some of that off and actually be with them.
Completely. Yeah. Yeah,
So
enjoy
how can
that.
we find out about your workshop? Because people.
So I'm going to put the registration page, the link in the notes, right? I think I can send it to you, and somehow we can do that.
I'll add them to the notes here.
Okay.
And also, people should feel free. We're on StreamYard, guys, so we can't see your questions, but leave some comments when you watch this. If you have questions for Aviva, questions for me, put them there. We'll come back and we'll answer them.
Definitely. So I'm going to put.
Tell us about the workshop. How long is it? What's the time commitment?
So we're starting tomorrow. Again, as I said, this is our third time. We decided to offer it in the morning this time. We've been offering it in the evening, but we decided to offer the morning for those people. Mornings are better.
That way people can have a whole day to also watch the recording after it's live or whatever.
So this we're not going to do recording because it's a free workshop. Yeah, so we decided that we're not going to do a recording.
That way you can give people real attention and people can also be more vulnerable without having to worry about it being recorded.
Exactly. We also felt that like people were not as comfortable sharing if they know it's going to be recorded. So we felt like completely that it was not appropriate.
My Shabbat Ideal Weight Blueprint group coaching course also, I'm recording the module that we're doing, like when we do a training module, but the actual time when we're discussing stuff, it's all unrecorded. So if you can't make it, you can't make it, but people have to feel like that place to be safe and vulnerable. And if it's recorded, then we can't do that.
Exactly. So our issue was we wanted to create a workshop. It's not a lecture. It's a workshop where we are presenting. We've got 3 different topics that we're going to talk about. Caregivers in general, like things to know, self-care, and communication, because we found that a big issue is when you have other people involved, a spouse, siblings, when it's a parent, Some of them live abroad. We don't always live next to. Some are doing more, some are doing less. A lot of issues about that. So those are the 3 topics that we're going to cover.
Wow. We didn't even touch on that. And we were
I
talking right now
know.
because I'm literally thinking of the people I've worked with in the last year. I guess because of Corona, it spiked so many health crises for people
Completely.
that
Yeah.
the interaction with the siblings and also the spouses, when so much of your time is going to this thing. And then at least for my clients, you're also struggling with your self-image and your food and
Right.
how you're feeling about yourself. So then your relationships are also suffering on both ends.
Exactly. So we have a presentation where we both talk, we present the ideas, but then we also, it's much more interactive. So we give an opportunity, people share their questions, share their experiences. We give, recommendations right then and there about how to, deal with things. I think that sometimes just bringing up issues, that you didn't even realize was an issue is already,
And knowing there's somewhere to get help. Other than calling a million friends, hearing what they did, and then
or
you can't even
Googling.
exactly do it the way they did because you're not them and you don't have their skills.
Exactly. Or a ton of people, you just Google it, and then you end up reading everybody else's opinions who you have no idea what their backgrounds are, what their, their experience or their expertise is. And then, who knows?
You don't know how many times I've been in a session and with somebody and they're like, okay, so I'm eating this way and I love it and I'm feeling great. But then I read this article that this food now is horrible for you. Or this food is going to make me gain weight. Is that true? I'm like, you need to stop trolling the internet.
Nutrition. I see it in how, but you must see it constantly because every other day there's and then people start to question themselves, which is silly, but it's,
constantly. Wait, but I thought I need to never have sugar. Are you saying it's okay for me to have sugar sometimes? Yeah, I thought I can't have any alcohol. No, it's okay. Wait, are you sure you are licensed to give me this information? What if I have soy? And especially around, this age group that we're in from 35 plus.
Wow.
All of the BS about hormones, when if you talk to anybody who really knows, it's supplement basically well because your body's changing. So collagen, different herbs help the body deal with that. But the most important things are sleep, exercise, and general self-care, de-stressing. And the problem is we take all the stress
and real food and just real food. That's
and it's real food. Yeah. And that's it. But we have to make it so much more complicated because we're so scared.
Yeah.
And no one wants to hear I need to sleep more. We're so busy at this stage of life when it's starting with everything that we're doing. Nobody wants to hear I should sleep more. I don't have time to sleep. I'm doing 8 million full-time jobs.
Right. That's it. I have 4 full-time jobs at least. How can I be sleeping? Yeah.
Now you're telling me I have to sleep? It's not even worth it. I'd rather take a pill, I'll Google it.
Yeah. I'll Google it. I'll take a pill and I'll Google it. Yeah.
Okay. This was so amazing. And so we were having this conversation totally just yesterday because I found out she had this workshop and I said,
thank you so much for making this opportunity. This is so great. I never thought about the connection, but it's very evident.
Amazing. So, and I hope people really come to your workshop. And a workshop is so much better than just hearing a lecture because it's so interactive and you get your questions answered. You feel heard.
Exactly. And also, and then we can, we get to know people. So it's also, and then we can become a resource, which is really what we wanted, to create so that people know us. And then they can, sometimes people say okay, I'm just starting out. I don't even know what I need. Great. So we have the initial conversation. And then 6 months down the line, they can reach out again with their questions. So I think it's a win-win.
That's amazing. Well, I'm so happy. Thank you for coming on and also sharing with everybody who I'm in connection with this amazing place to be helped, which I think is super important. So have a great day, everybody. And we love you more. Shabbat Shalom.